Yo, what up, Street Dogs? This is Eric Kim. All right, quick review on the Ricoh GR3X. So after my Ricoh GR3 went kaput, I got the GR3X, and basically my quick take on it is rocking the Eric Kim wrist strap Mark II. Is it's more or less the same thing as the GR3, except it has a new lens. The new lens is it's a 40 millimeter full frame equivalent lens, and it's slight in the hand. It feels slightly heavier, which is one thing I've noticed. And in terms of just like a quick setup, turning it on. These are all the settings I have on it. I use for the auto exposure metering, the new highlight weighting one is pretty good. Just shoot only JPEG, small JPEG, sufficient. Turn off all the volume settings. Auto power off 30 minutes, sleep mode 30 minutes. For shooting info display, I just have the LCD display on. And you can put on the grid guide. To turn this on, you just push this little button here. You can turn that on. Playback info display, nothing. Instant review. So by default this is set to 0.5 seconds, which is annoying, but you just turn that off so you don't see that, you don't get in the way. 4x4 grid is good. And the big thing is actually, so this little adjustment knob thing here, you just push this in the center. So you can push this to click through the menus. And I chose high contrast black and white. And you could push the little function button. And the settings that I've done was put contrast to the max, highlight contrast to the max, shadow contrast to the max, sharpness to the max, grain effect to the max, and that's pretty much it. Autofocus works fine and stuff like that. And so basically the reason why I really love the GR3, GR3X, so forth, is essentially this is like super unique, but it just like literally fits in your front pocket. This is the biggest thing with cameras that people don't talk about a lot. And basically, the big question is it worth it? Get the Eric Kim wrist strap Mark II. Is it worth it compared to the GR3 and stuff? So basically, some quick thoughts on that. So first and foremost, if you don't have a Ricoh GR camera, if you never owned one, just get the GR3. The 28 millimeter perspective I think is actually superior to that of the 40 millimeter perspective, which simulates the human eye. And this is because I don't think the purpose of photography is to just capture the world as the human eye sees it, but it's to essentially transform it into something else. And so the downside of 40 millimeter is that it looks too close to real life, whereas 28 millimeter, it exaggerates, it enlarges. And when you're shooting with 28 millimeters, you must use your foot zoom to get closer to your subjects. And when you're photographing things, it really forces you to push yourself outside your comfort zone to make better composition. So I still think that for the most part, focal length wise, 28 millimeter is actually ideal. That was a 35 millimeter shooter for a long time. If you use a camera like a rangefinder or something that doesn't have a LCD screen, 35 millimeter is actually pretty, I think, ideal. But if you're shooting with like a Ricoh GR3 and you got like a 28 millimeter lens, to take your camera and be able to stretch it outwards makes it pretty easy to get close to your subjects. And assuming you already have a GR3, then the question is it worth getting the GR3X? My personal opinion is if you have a GR3 that's broken, then getting the GR3X is worth it. Otherwise, I would just hold out until the GR4 comes out. And I was even thinking this too. I think the new Leica M11's out. If you're one of those people who are severely afflicted by gear acquisition syndrome, instead of getting an M11, I would just recommend getting a Ricoh GR3X. It's the biggest benefit, actually, something I didn't expect, is that the new lens on the GR3X is actually like significantly better than the GR3 in terms of the image resolution, the sharpness, the contrast. I looked at the technical spec sheet. I think the GR3X has like 6 lens elements compared to 5 on the GR3. So somehow Ricoh was able to actually refine the lens and make it better. At first I thought it was just like they just switched up the focal length. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a waste of time. But when I look at the photos on my laptop, the GR3X, it actually looks significantly better. So, if you have some gas and then you don't want to buy a $9,000 M11, just get a GR3X instead. Some interesting thoughts I have about the GR3X and the 40mm perspective. I think it actually could be pretty good for headshots and more portrait photos. Also, we could be like John Wick, right? Have 2 Ricoh GRs, right? Have a GR3 and a GR3X, have one in each pocket, whatever. I don't think it. And then this is one thing that's actually really sucks about the Ricoh GR cameras. They don't last forever. At best, you might get 2-3 years out of it, out of extreme using. Like what happened to my GR3 eventually was the lens got stuck. So I tried to turn on the camera. It says lens error, and having to send in a Ricoh to get service is too much of a pain in the ass, so I'm just like, I'm just not gonna bother with that. And yeah, so just shooting with the GR3X, I still prefer it over shooting with any iPhone or iPhone Pro. The ergonomics of the GR cameras are far superior, and the images look at least 1,000 times better. So yeah, so that's the skinny of it. My personal wish list for the Ricoh GR4 is they just bring back the flash. So if they could bring back the original GR2 size, the original Ricoh GR size, like I would actually prefer a camera that's bigger, that has an integrated flash than the other functions, right? Get rid of the Wi-Fi module. Ain't nobody use that. Just SD card is fine. Bring back the integrated flash. But yeah, super solid camera. Gets 2 thumbs up from Eric Kim.